So both of us obviously have been big supporters at one time or another of Mr. Springsteen, and he has certainly had a huge impact on my life. He was and always has been for several decades my favorite musician for a lot of reasons.
I've seen him more times than I'd want to admit to, and I was a fan for a long time, and I still think he's great musically, but he's been very disappointing as a human being.
And I think the problem that we have, and we're going to let the clip play because I think you guys are going to get an idea of exactly what the problem is here. There is one of the things that Springsteen was masterful at for many, many years, and I mean many, many years. He came off as a working class hero, and in many ways he was a working class hero, and for many he still is. That's not to say that his impact is still not felt by a lot of people. But for quite some time, and I'm talking for many years now, Bruce Springsteen is not a working class hero anymore. His shtick does not jive. It falls on deaf ears for most. And when you consider the type of audience that shows up at his shows, it should come as no surprise. So his statement against Trump the other night in the UK, it kind of rung very hollow as far as I'm concerned. Here's what he had to say.
Things are happening right now that are altering the very nature of our country's democracy, and they're too important to ignore. So, first I want to thank you for indulging me. But in America, my home, they're persecuting people for their right to free speech and voicing their dissent.
That's a good point.
That's happening now.
That's a valid point. I'm not going to fault him for that.
But Bruce has not said a single word about what's going on in Gaza.
That's why he disappoints me as a human. But this isn't yet. I mean, yeah.
He's referencing it ever so slightly.
No, he's not. He hasn't referenced shit. He's talking about what's happening on campuses and about speeches.
Yes, but what's happening on campuses is that these students are protesting what's going on in Gaza.
If you don't say why, then it's a no. You don't. He doesn't get to claim that he addressed it through like osmosis.
Exactly. Well, what I'm saying is that that's what he's trying to do. He's trying to thread the needle, but
I don't think he is. I think he is one of those fucking libtards that just literally thinks that it all begins and ends with Trump. Trump's the fascist. Trump's the problem. He would have been fine if Kamala was elected. He would have gone back to brunch.
I was going to get to that point.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
I was going to get to that point, but let's continue with what he has to say.
In America, the richest men are taking satisfaction in abandoning the world's poorest children to sickness and death. That's happening now.
Do you think this wouldn't be happening if Kamala was president?
That's my problem. He's just, I feel like saying, sit down, boomer. And I never would have thought in a million, like if you had told my 17-year-old self that I would be thinking like this of Bruce Springsteen, I'd say you were nuts. Like,
and the thing is, what people have to remember is that Bruce became super rich from Born in the USA. And that was 40 years ago. Bruce was still very grounded for at least another 25, 30 years. It was Obama. Obama really, like he developed a relationship with Obama and it became personal for him. And he just kind of went along with that shit, which is amazing. But he just changed his entire attitude and he's never been the same.
Does it bother you that I was at that concert?
No, I mean, if I grew up when you grew up, I have no doubt I would have went to.
You know that I saw the Born in the USA concert at the Orange Bowl live.
And if I was old enough, I would have went to the Born in the USA concert at Giant Stadium. So there you go.
In my country, they're taking sadistic pleasure in the pain they inflict on loyal American workers. They're rolling back historic civil rights legislation that led to a more just society. They're abandoning our great allies and siding with dictators against those who are struggling for their freedoms.
See, now that's annoying, because right there, that's that Russia, Putin, like fear-mongery Ukraine crap. That's what that is. So seriously, he's one of those that's like hands off NATO now.
Talk about living in a bubble. And Jimmy is right. That is NATO PR if there ever was. NATO should have been dismantled the second the Soviet Union was dismantled almost 35 years ago. And so this talking point that Bruce is throwing out there, point blank, comes from those very people that he likes to hang around with, kind of like when he did that benefit concert for Kamala, and it was him, Kamala, and Obama backstage hamming it up. What do you think these people talk about? They are so disconnected from what regular people care about and need to focus on. He's focused on this shit. He doesn't want to mention the fact that the reason we are in conflict, if you want to call it that, in Ukraine is because Ukraine has trillions upon trillions of dollars in natural resources that the U.S. wants to control. And by trying to get Ukraine into NATO, they figured they can control the resources that way. And Putin said, you're not doing that, and you're not coming up to my doorstep. But even somebody like Bruce Springsteen makes this type of a statement, you would think he would at least have some semblance of understanding as to what this is about.
And is he in London? Is that where you said he was?
Oh, yes. He's not even doing this here. He's doing this over there.
Yeah. Well, that makes sense. They're also like, you know, their whole thing is trying to say, we'll handle it without you. We'll take care of it. And what nobody probably is bothered to educate the boss here that the people that he's talking about helping, the poor persecuted people, are actually Nazis. Those are Nazis.
Oh.
That's happening now. They are defunding American universities that won't bow down to their ideological demands. And they are removing residents off American streets without due process of law and deporting them to foreign detention centers and prisons. That's happening now.
Yes.
A majority of our elected representatives have utterly failed to protect the American people from the abuses of an unfit president and a rogue government.
You think Kamala Harris was capable or qualified to run this country? You were out there singing her praises, and I got to tell you, between Donald Trump and Kamala Harris, whether you want to accept it or not, Donald Trump was infinitely more qualified to run this country.
Without a doubt. Without a doubt. And he's ridiculous.
And as we said to Clint Russell, as we say now, if there's one thing we can say about Trump versus Kamala, at least with Trump, there are issues that the buck will stop with him. With Kamala Harris, everything would have been predetermined in terms of what she would say.
It would be the same thing. We would just not be seeing, she wouldn't reveal it as well as Trump does. I'm telling you, he's the most honest liar ever. I'm embarrassed about that. Like, I'm embarrassed for Bruce. Like, he just looks so pitiful to me. And by the way, you're talking to people in a country that is gung-ho pro-war, whether we're with them or not. And I don't mean the people, not the people, but it's like he's talking to, like, in the UK as if somehow they're just so ideologically separate from us. No, they are us. They're a vassal state, basically, to some extent of us. In terms of their leadership, their government. It's not any better.
The UK is really the one place in Europe that has a sizable Zionist population.
Oh, it's terrible. I mean, they have I'm just saying of all the stuff that's happening here is to a lesser extent in terms of free speech is also happening there because of the same things. Right. So that's what I'm saying. Like you're talking to people as if you live in some crazy, horrible, they're in that same world.
You know, somebody just, Harashnu had brought up Roger Waters. And, this is a great example of the difference between somebody like Roger Waters and somebody like Bruce Springsteen. Everybody knows that Roger Waters is an asshole. Everybody knows that Bruce Springsteen is a nice guy. But you know what? I'm with Roger Waters because he is right.
What makes him an asshole? Why is he an asshole? I don't know that he's an asshole. I've not met him.
I've just from what I know. I could be
whatever.
Wrong.
I don't care. I've heard Bernie's an asshole. It doesn't matter.
Yes, exactly. It doesn't matter how nice a person is. What matters is, are they right? And Springsteen is speaking from an exceptionally privileged position to be talking about this. Remember, Bruce is a billionaire. He is. So once again, the billionaire class trying to tell us how to live instead of just recognizing the realities of what's going on and being honest. But remember, Bruce likes to hobnob with people that want this message out there. Don't forget that.
They have no concern or idea of what it means to be deeply American. The America I've sung to you about for 50 years is real. And regardless of its many faults, it's a great country with a great people, and we will survive this moment.
What is so great about this country? Because you made it. And that thing that Jen is holding is what's great about this country, but that document is being decimated by all sides of corporate power in this country. It is not a Trump thing. It is a broken republic thing. That is why we have lost almost every single legitimate semblance of the Constitution ever since 9/11. And maybe it was inevitable that it was going to happen. But it has accelerated so fast and so hard. And the idea that Bruce is still peddling this idea that it's all the Republicans, that's the sin. That is the original sin.
It has to be really hard for you.
I don't, much like you don't look at Jerry Seinfeld the same, I don't look at Bruce Springsteen the same.
But the difference is that Jerry Seinfeld was never my hero.
Sure. And I don't think Bruce is anywhere near the level, obviously, of Seinfeld in that regard. But
it would be like if it were Dolly. Then I'd be like, if it were Dolly, then
it's also the fact that Bruce, it's not like Bruce was always like this. He evolved into this. And I do think Obama had a huge impact. I think he likes having, he was legitimately friends with the president of the United States for 8 years, was invited to his house, taken out on rides. They did a podcast together. I mean, he awarded him the Presidential Medal of Freedom, did the event at the Kennedy Center Honors. It's all this stuff. Even somebody like Bruce, at his age and everything he's done, still gets sucked into that world. So it's easy to see why we talk about somebody like Jay's representative, Maxwell Frost, coming from a very small level and getting in there. Now you're talking about somebody who at one time, Bruce Springsteen was the biggest rock star musician in the world. He was right there with Michael Jackson and Prince. No one was bigger than him. So he's been to the top of the mountain. And even to this day, he still pretends like he doesn't get it. That is incredibly inappropriate and irresponsible on his part.
Now, I have hope because I believe in the truth of what the great American writer James Baldwin said. He said, in this world, there isn't as much humanity as one would like, but there's enough.
He just quoted James Baldwin. Hold on a second. That's crazy. He quoted James Baldwin. He quoted James Baldwin. What was the antithesis of the liberal, elite, classist bullshit that he is sitting here promoting? The fact that he quoted James Baldwin just blows me away. Like, are you frigging kidding me? Are you James Baldwin would have been holding a Palestinian flag screaming "Free Palestine." Like, that's just ridiculous that that's who he quoted of all. Oh my God. I'm embarrassed.
One, two.
I'm sad. I'm sad.
The song that Bruce was giving that interlude into is called City of Ruins, which is about Asbury Park, New Jersey. Now, when I grew up about 20 minutes away from Asbury Park, for many years, especially in the 80s and a significant portion of the 90s, Asbury Park was a run-down community. It was once a thriving shore community, particularly in the 50s and 60s. But during the Reagan 80s and into the Clinton 90s, it was a dangerous, dirty, dormant community. But then the LGBTQ community moved into Asbury Park and completely changed it. It had a renaissance, and it's been thriving ever since. But the irony of Bruce singing about my city of ruins, which became a high mark in terms of what he was singing about on the Rising Tour in lieu of 9/11. Our country is in ruins, and it stays that way because of deliberate misinformation that is thrown out there to the general public. What Bernie and many others have been trying to convey is this idea that if we only got rid of this side, it would solve the problem. It isn't going to solve the problem. And Bruce is going right along with it. And to me, it's irresponsible and unacceptable that he thinks that he can put that message out there and thinks that it's just not going to be a big deal.
Can you imagine if Bruce Springsteen got up there and started saying things like "Free Palestine" with his platform? Can you imagine if Bruce Springsteen was actually, because we've got the pro-Palestine segment, but it's not usually the bigger names, right? It isn't. It's the people that have integrity, which is probably why they never got to that level in the first place, like real thespians, people that actually have integrity. But can you imagine if he stood there, instead of giving that ridiculous bullshit NATO cheerleading speech, if he actually got up and said, Israel's committing a genocide, we need to free Palestine?
Yeah.
What that would have had, what that impact could be. And instead, his privileged fucking ass is standing there being a NATO puppet. I'm just disgusted. I'm so disgusted. I can't, like, the fact that that's Springsteen now, like it taints his music to me too. And I hate saying that.